Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. In 2005, in the spring, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity of a lifetime. I traveled to the remote village of Trinidad, Bolivia, floated down the Rio Mamoré, and spent a night in the Amazon jungle. In this journey, I realized that I had reached one of the most remote places in the world. It was undoubtedly off the grid. Trinidad is about 200 miles from where I was volunteering, but it was virtually inaccessible by car. An overland journey would take 2 or 3 days to accomplish. Fortunately, there was an airport. So I boarded a plane, and when I got to my seat, I found there was someone sitting in it. I didn't speak Spanish, so I pulled out my ticket and showed him, excuse me, you're in my spot. He huffed at me and rolled his eyes and then reluctantly moved over a row. I thought, rude? It's my seat, I paid for this seat, what? A few minutes later, the cabin doors closed, and I noticed we were the only 2 people flying to Trinidad. Realization, there are not many travelers off the grid. The flight wasn't long, but it was rough. We chattered over the mountains and finally slammed down onto the runway. I was pleasantly surprised that we'd actually made it there. So after a short jeep ride, I finally laid eyes on the riverboat, which looked like it had been afloat since maybe the early 1900s. On the flight over, I wasn't sure if I would live to see Trinidad, but after seeing this boat, I was sure this is where I would die. Under the muddy water lurked electric eels, anacondas, and alligators. At least it would be a quick death, I hoped. Realization, I might disappear off the grid. So we floated down the river that day, and after a while, we stopped to hike in the jungle. We walked along this path that was carved out of the forest, just vigilantly looking for anything that might bite anywhere. We came across this little camp, and it looked like basically just a roof with a table under it. And next to it was the hide of a leopard or some kind of wild cat stretched out to dry. And then on the table was the remains of a charred monkey. Now, I can't even imagine catching a monkey, never mind eating one. And I certainly do not know how to skin a cat. Realization, I do not have the skills to survive off the grid. So a little further down, we came upon a community with some children. And one of the women from the boat used her digital camera to take a photo and then show the kids. And the oldest girl was really excited to point out, oh, she recognized my brother or my sister. Yeah, that's my sister. But she was confused by the tallest girl in the picture. She didn't recognize herself. She'd never seen her own face before. Realization, it doesn't get any further off the grid. So we emerged from the jungle, and that night we had dinner on the boat. We retired to our bunks after the captain turned off the generator, and I woke up a few hours later in a panic. It was pitch dark. I couldn't even see my hand in front of my face. It was just black. So I scrambled out of bed and out onto the top deck to get some fresh air. And I looked up at the sky, and I saw billions of stars. There were so many, and they were so close together. It seemed like I could reach out and scoop them up, and they'd just kind of sift through my fingers like sand. There's nowhere in the US you can go to see that many stars with the naked eye. Realization, it is really, really dark off the grid. Now, you never really know what someone else's life is like until you live it, but this journey in the jungle these stories made me realize how different our lives can be. I didn't know what to expect going to Bolivia. What I found was an isolated corner of the earth with dangerous wild animals, primitive lifestyles, and gloriously dark nights. Realization: I will never forget what it means to be off the grid.
My favorite flower is the cherry blossom. Caitlin was completing project number 6, vocal variety, from the Competent Communicator Manual. Her objectives are to use voice, pitch, rate, and quality to add meaning to her story or message, to use pace in order to, or use pauses in order to enhance her message, and use vocal variety smoothly and naturally. And she was very successful in achieving those goals. She opened with a smile that brought us all in, and was very smooth in her delivery of her opening. She used a narrative approach to tell the story, and there were several things I liked about what she did. One, she signaled breaks in the narrative where she could convey to us an insight that she had garnered from the experience by saying that magical word, realization. And that was a nice device that helped us. I think it enhanced the narrative. I also liked her natural voice, which has all those aspects of variety, vocal variety that you're looking for in terms of pitch and volume. She projects well so that we can hear her. And I thought that she was very expressive, especially when she focused on specific events, like her experience in the airplane, her experience with the monkey, those types of things. There are some areas where I think she can improve. One, she didn't know what to do with her hands at first. And so, while her gestures, when she used gestures to emphasize, were appropriate, the hands kept coming back to the front here and were grasping each other. And she spoke without notes. And she did it well, so there's no reason to be nervous or for those hands to distract. You have to consciously do something with your hands, whether it's take them to your side, or before you start out, make that power pose that gives you confidence, and then keep your hands in control. Another area to improve is I think she could have created more drama in her story with aspects of vocal variety like volume and pitch. She did have some conversational parts where she changed her voice depending on who was speaking, but I think that could be emphasized and made larger. The other thing that I think that she can do is, as she moves into her closing, which was strong and very good, I think she could have set that up better. It seemed like she tailed off a little bit and then abruptly hit the ending. But overall, it was a wonderful story, told well, using vocal variety and meeting the objectives. And I especially liked the expressiveness that's in her voice. Thank you.